Sounds good. Okay.
Okay, this evening we have with us Allison Rollins, who is a co-Guide by Your Side parent guide, as well as a teacher of the deaf and a developmental therapist for hearing. She is going to talk to us tonight about language acquisition and reading and the importance of that for us to be able to share this information with our parents. So if you are ready to go, Allie.
I'm ready.
Okay, thank you.
Okey-doke. Thank you. Okay, so like Andrea said, my name's Allison Rollins. You guys know me. And I am a teacher of the deaf. I've been in a Chicago public school for 15 years, and I'm also a developmental therapist. I've only been doing that for a couple of years now, and so it's relatively new, but I really enjoy it. I have 2 children with hearing loss, just as a recap, and I am a parent guide. So I am going to talk about language acquisition and reading, and it is very near and dear to my heart. I absolutely love it. I love books, love children's books especially, and so I'm really excited to be talking about this topic. So here's my first slide I just told you about. My contact information is at the bottom, those 2 email addresses. Either one works. I check them both daily, frequently. And so at the end, if you have any questions or you have any comments or ideas, that would be great if you'd email me, and we can share that with the whole group. So after this webinar, you should be able to answer basic facts about language acquisition, answer facts about reading to children, and have ideas on how to make books with your child. I love that part. That's the fun part. To do my questions first. And so question number 1 is true or false. Almost all human beings acquire a language to the level of native competency before age 5. And number 2, why do children under the age of 3 communicate? A, she or he wants to get someone's attention. B, she or he wants to get something she or he wants. C, to protest. D, to show someone something. Or E, all of the above. Number 3, how many words do children know relatively by the age of 7? And that's hearing children. A is 2,000. B is 5,000. C is 20,000. D is 200,000. Number 4 is a true or false. Exposure to storybooks is the biggest factor in a preschooler's vocabulary. And the last question, number 5, a pattern book is A, a book that teaches you how to sew. B, a math book. C, a book that uses the same phrase or sentence with one changing word on each page. Or D, a book for artists. So now we're going to get started with the talk. I have a few basic facts to tell you about language acquisition. First one is almost all human beings acquire a language, and sometimes more than one, to the level of native competency before age 5. This is why early intervention is so important for our kiddos. The next facts come from the National Science Foundation. I Googled some information, and this is some of the things I came up with. The first one is researchers theorize that children are born with an innate biological device for understanding the principles and organization common to all languages. And then the second is, according to this theory, the brain's language module gets programmed to follow the specific grammar of the language a child is exposed to early in life. And 3, childhood is a critical period for the acquisition of language capabilities. So that's just some technical mumbo-jumbo, but it is important. It does show you the importance of early intervention and shows you how even babies are already ready to receive language. So no nonsense. Babies recognize syllables. Babies are born into a world buzzing with new noises. Babies must learn where words begin and end in a fluid stream of speech or sign. And by 7 or 8 months of age, babies can pluck words out of sentences. So, you know, if mom and dad are talking and all of a sudden mom's saying a sentence, baby might know the word milk, but then in a stream of words that are going really fast, when mom is saying, we're out of milk, I need you to pick some up at the store, the baby will clue in onto the word milk, and everything else would kind of sound like wah, 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 milk, wah, 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 wah. I think that's pretty cool that they're already starting to pick up those words and able to pull them out of the sentences by 7 or 8 months. But parents are the child's #1 teacher. The most important thing for language acquisition is obviously the parent. Communication is so, so important. Any type of communication, preferably with words or signs, talking, signing with your child, whatever your preference, but not, you know, pointing to things in the beginning when kids are really little is a communication, but it's not language, and we want our kids to acquire language, whatever that may be, sign language or spoken language, in whatever spoken language is your native language. And how do you do this? You play, you sing, you cook, and you enjoy your child. It's so tempting, you know, we're all so busy to let our kids watch a lot of TV or play video games, and I'm definitely guilty of that after a really long, busy day. But our kids or any kid can really fall behind quickly if they don't have language input. So, you know, some of my students, I work so hard with them, they come back to me after the weekend and they're back to pointing. I teach 1st and 2nd graders and some kindergartners. So when they're just pointing to things or using one word, it really kind of makes me a little crazy because they should be speaking in sentences or signing in sentences. I actually use both at my school. And so some of these kids just don't have parents that really communicate with language other than pointing at home, and it's very sad and very frustrating. And I, you know, try to educate the parents, which I'm doing. I'm not accusing any of you of this, but I'm just trying to emphasize the point of how important it is. You know, the kids in my class that are doing really well are the kids whose parents work with them and who expose them to language-rich models at home. That's my soapbox, sorry. For children under age 3, the major purposes for communicating are to get someone's attention, to get something she or he wants, a protest, which lots of kids under the age of 3 usually do, and to show someone something. So even though, you know, they might seem like they don't understand a lot, they're just these little things, and maybe we don't even see them as, you know, true human beings or people yet because they're so little. They really are, and there's a lot going on inside their brain that they want to tell you about. So listen to your child's ideas. You know, sometimes it's hard for us to understand, especially our kids with hearing loss. Maybe their speech or their sign even is not so clear. So here's some hints. Figure out what you think your child is trying to say. And if you don't understand, you look around for cues. What do you think? And unfortunately, I do have to do this with my 1st and 2nd graders. You know, I don't understand what they're signing, and I don't understand what they're saying. Maybe their speech just isn't very clear. And so I really have to look around and try to figure out, okay, what did they just see in the hallway that they want to tell me about? And then I respond by repeating what I think they said. And if I really don't, unfortunately, nod my head and do the kind of, you know, smile and nod kind of thing, and at least so they know that they're validated what they were trying to tell me and that I care. And sometimes I just admit that I'm sorry, I don't understand you, and then I do get to the pointing and things like that. But I definitely try to always, of course, make them feel like what they're trying to tell me is important. Another way to communicate, obviously, is to enhance communication, is to get down on your child's level, eye level. So with my little kids, I have to kneel down and look them in the eye, and instead of feeling like this big monster and authoritative figure who may scare the child and not want to communicate, I get down on my knees and I look them in the eyes and I get to their level. I move close to them, especially to their hearing device, so that they can hear me better if that's what I'm using. And phrases and sentences, you know, not too simple where you're kind of dumbing them down or, thinking that, watering it down, thinking that they wouldn't understand, but doing it at a level that's not too complicated where they wouldn't understand, and just always being a little bit more ahead of their level so that you can increase their vocabulary. So the title of this slide is blah, 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 and that's not because I think that's what kids are saying is blah, 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 but I used it to get your attention. So hopefully I'm not being too boring and you guys are still with me. But blah, blah, blah really means talk to your child. Talk about anything and everything. Talk about things that are interesting to your child. Sometimes I get home and I want to tell my kids all about stuff that happened with me, and, really my little one is really into cars, and what he wants to talk about is all the kind of cars and trucks and everything that he's seen. So I have to remember that he's not really interested in some of the things that I'm interested in, like Dancing with the Stars or American Idol, obviously. And so talking about what he's interested in and what they're doing, what we did at school, what I'm doing now. I remember when my kids were babies and my husband was like, how are they going to ever learn language? I don't understand. And I kept saying, you have to talk to them. You have to, well, my husband is deaf, and so he signs, and so you have to keep signing, and it feels really weird to be talking or signing to an infant who isn't talking back, but you do. Whatever goes in will come out eventually. And so you just have to have faith in a way that everything you're telling your child will eventually come out expressively. So while I'm, cooking dinner, I'll say, oh, I need some eggs and I need to boil the water, and I'm just telling everything that I'm doing so that they understand eventually and will be able to express it. So I kind of already mentioned this, but show interest in your child's communication. Stop what you're doing and attend to what your child is trying to tell you. And I can't tell you how guilty of this I am myself, but my kids, even now, sometimes I'll try to tell them something and they'll literally hold up their finger. I don't know if this happens to any of you, but their index finger, not their middle finger, thank goodness, but they'll hold up their index finger and say, just a minute, because I do that too often because I have to go through the mail and I might want to run the dishwasher, and I'm trying to do a million things at the same time. Everybody's really busy, but we have to remember that these kids are important, our children are important, and the only way to increase their language is to communicate with them. So you need to stop what you're doing and attend to your child and repeat what you think they said. So, make sure that you understand what they're trying to say, and you can expand it. So, in my classroom, that's what I have to do all the time. I have to repeat what I think they said, and if it's not correct grammar, then I correct it and I say it, and I even do have them repeat back the whole sentence. So as simple as they'll say, bathroom, please, and I'll say, can I use the bathroom, please? And then they'll have to use the whole sentence. So those are things that are important to do. Not every single time the child talks, because then they really won't want to talk to you. But it's important to give them more language when necessary and have them work on it, because that's going to help them be a better communicator. So I'm waiting does not mean I'm waiting for you guys to respond, but waiting is very important when you're communicating with your child. And we had Tracy Meehan gave a presentation, a webinar, or actually it was the conference call, and she talked about the OWL, which is observe, wait, and listen. And it's really true. So you observe what interests your child. So in Eli's case, it's cars and trucks. Wait and follow your child's lead and see what he wants to talk about, and then listen when your child wants to talk. And give your child time to express his or her thoughts. It's really, really hard to wait sometimes for a response. Sometimes I'll be saying something, especially with my early intervention kids, the little kids that are younger than 3, they don't have as long sentences or as much communication experience with expressive communication sometimes. So I'll be thinking that the silence means something that that I'm not teaching them properly, or they didn't understand what I was saying. So I'll just keep talking and I'll keep talking, and I forget to just wait and wait, even wait a little bit longer then I think I should wait so that the child will actually respond. Look at the child expectantly, like, you know, you're expecting them to respond to something you said, and then just wait, and eventually something will come out. It's really hard to do, but that is a very important thing when communicating with your child. Turn it down. Very important for kids with hearing loss, and all kids especially, you know, actually, but kids with hearing loss especially, it's important that we remember to turn our TV off and reduce background noise. If there's an air conditioner going or a fan blowing, and you're really trying to have an important conversation, or when you're reading a book or anything like that, it's important to decrease the noise when you can. So if the car windows are down, you know, especially eventually someday maybe it'll be warm enough to put our windows down again, and it's really nice. The kids love to feel the cool breeze and all, but it's really hard to have a conversation unless your child, you know, uses FM in the car, which some parents do, but we don't. And so I hear what a lot if I have the car windows down. Shut the doors if it's noisy outside. Turn off your dishwasher if it's loud. You know, you're not going to be wanting to be vacuuming while communicating. It just makes it a lot more difficult. Just some information about the language development of hearing children. It's kind of can be concerning, but it's also a good wake-up call to see how many words our hearing kids really know receptively and expressively. So 2 to 3 year olds receptively know already 500 to 900 words, and they can already express 50 to 250 words. 4 and 5 year olds have 2,800 words receptively, approximately, and 900 to 2,000 words expressively. And then 6 to 7 year olds receptively know 20,000 words. Not like I'm sitting and counting every single word. My, you know, 8 and 9 year olds, 5 and 6 year olds, how many words they actually know, but you know, the researchers did, and that's what they came up with. And so 20,000 words by 6 or 7, that's a lot, and it's a lot to, you know, compete with, but we have to. It's important. And besides having conversations and just talking about your day and telling your child what you're doing and all of those things that we just talked about, so make a difference for your child. Read. This is very important to me and to your children and to all children, and something I love is reading. Not only should you talk to your child like we've talked about in the earlier slides, but reading is a huge difference in having your child acquire language. Here's a quote. The single most important activity for building the knowledge required for eventual success in reading is reading aloud to children. So we always in my house are reading. I love reading aloud, even to my my 9-year-old. He's almost 9. We still read Harry Potter, and he loves it when I do the voices and all of those things. And so I hope that we never stop. It's not as frequent, because he's able to read those things on his own, but it's still really nice to be able to read aloud to him, and we enjoy it. Exposure to storybooks is the biggest factor in a preschooler's vocabulary. So besides talking, exposure to storybooks is a very important thing. Vocabulary knowledge in 1st grade predicts reading ability in up to at least 3rd grade. Children who read aloud show signs of more than twice many new words. And reading aloud to children before age 6 affects language, literacy, and reading. The more you read, the better reader you become. It's just like anything. The more you speak a language and practice speaking that language, you will be at using that language. Same with reading. And it seems silly, but it's true. We're always still learning. I'm always still learning and increasing my vocabulary from the books that I'm reading. That's why I love my Nooks, because I can highlight the words I don't know and go back and look them up later. So during the primary grades, children are learning to read, but by 3rd or 4th grade, children are reading to learn. I think I heard this at a workshop actually at Child's Voice. That's a teacher named Aloud did, and I just found this very interesting and very true. I'm learning with my my current 3rd grader. You know, so much is they're, and it's fun, and they're practicing learning how to read and that when they're younger, but by 3rd or 4th grade, they really need to know how to read and understand the text, because the text is, they're using those textbooks to learn the information in the classroom. And so that's why I think the statistics still shows that, you know, a lot of deaf, profoundly deaf adults still read at a 4th grade reading level, and it's a scary thing, and we're trying to change that, and that's why I'm doing this talk. So let's see, what books would be good books to use? Well, picture books with large, colorful pictures, pattern or repetitive books, board books that you can touch and feel, books with mirrors, books with pictures of the baby and family members, and make your own books. This is my favorite part of the webinar here. The first kind of book that I want to talk about is the pattern books, and I did not mean it was for sewing or a math book. In this case, it's a repetitive book that uses the same phrase or sentence with one changing word on each page. So for example, page 1 will say, the dog saw a boy, and the second one will say, the dog saw a bone, and the third page will say, the dog saw a shoe. So you're just changing that, and it's a great way to help kids feel successful when they're reading. Oh, well, here's my slide that explains why pattern books are really helpful to children with hearing loss. Repetition of words and phrases allow the child to focus on one changing word, so they know what to expect in most of the sentence, and then there's just one word that they need to try to figure out. And if they don't know it, then you can help them. Patterns in books build reading fluency. Fluency is how smoothly something is read. So instead of reading really, you know, in a choppy way where they're really having to concentrate on each word, so they may lose the meaning by the time they're finished with the sentence. If they're a more fluent reader and they can read it smoothly, it'll make more sense. And predictability of the words builds confidence in reading skills. And the ease of reading a pattern book takes some of the pressure off, which is what I said earlier. Children approach reading as an enjoyable activity. So, how to make your own pattern book. I have an example on another slide what the Bear books look like, and there's the website, bearbooks.com, B-A-R-E, and it's because they are blank books, and they come in all kinds. They have the board book, which is what I've used, and they have, for the older kids, where it's a hardcover, but the inside is paper, and you can Google images and include those, cut out pictures of from magazines. You can use your pictures, you know, type from the computer and include those, use pencil and pen, marker, whatever. But you know, however you want your book to look, you can, and kids love it. So here's a sample pattern book. For example, you can do a book on, the title can be, what can you see at the zoo? And so the sentence will be, I can see a what at the zoo? And each page will change. It will be, I can see a bear at the zoo. I can see a bird at the zoo. I can see a camel at the zoo. And you get the picture, an elephant, a giraffe, a hippo, a fish, a lion, a monkey, and so on. Another sample would be, what do you like to eat? This is, hopefully the kids do like to eat. Eli doesn't like to eat mostly any of these except cereal and cookies. But your book could be, I like to eat bananas, I like to eat cereal, I like to eat cookies, and I like to eat eggs, I like to eat hot dogs, and so on. Whatever your child likes to eat, then you put those foods in. And hopefully maybe you can slip in, I like to eat broccoli, and I like to eat peas, and all those things, so that your kids maybe will subliminally get it in their brain, and then they'll want to eat it. Maybe that'll work. Here's another example of a different book. Where can you go in a car? I can go to blank in a I can go to Grandma's house in a car. I can go to the library in a car. I can go to the mall in a car. I can go to the park in a car. I can go to school in the car, the store in a car, the swimming pool in a car, and so on. Here's an idea. I actually did this ABC book in my classroom. That's taken from Shutterfly. They have an ABC template, and I had done show and tell with things throughout the year where kids brought things that started with A and brought things that started with B, and they finger spelled the hand shape, and so I took pictures and I made an ABC book for my classroom, and then the parents that wanted to purchase one could purchase one, and with I got a discount, and so that was really nice. So an ABC book, you guys can go to Shutterfly and do your own if you want. You can make a counting book. You can do lots of things on Shutterfly or whatever your photo website is that you use. And then if you guys have ideas for more books that you'd like to make, if any of you guys make books yourself, please feel free to email me, and I can share those ideas with everybody, because I'm always looking for new ideas. I'm, by far not always, exactly the expert. It's just something I really love to do. So another idea besides using Bear books is just using a cheap photo album. You can see my example I did for Eli. I've done our birthdays. I've done the 4 seasons. I've done who's in my family. And I just used a label maker. The front cover I Googled a picture, Googled image, and found the seasons and used my label maker. And on each page I put a picture. So in the spring, Eli plants flowers. In the spring, Max and Daddy put flowers in the dirt. In the summer, so I just repeated it, and you can see it. And oh, they were so little. He doesn't look like that anymore. He looks like a baby. That's another cheap way. Instead of, you could just slip the pictures in and stick the labels on, and you're good to go. And the kids love it. They love to just look at themselves, and it's a little bit more interesting than just a photo album that you don't write in. Here's an example of the board books that's, from bearbooks.com. I did a book on opposites, and so it comes with paper, different kinds of scrapbook paper. If you like to scrapbook, then this will be something fun for you to do. So on each page, I had pictures of the kids, and I used my label maker again, and I used that on the bottom. So one picture is Eli is awake, the next one is Eli is asleep. Another picture is be careful, the pot is hot, and the next one is the popsicle is cold. So it was just something, and Eli really loved, really loved looking at these pictures, and Max too. They still look like babies there. It's just funny. Time flies. A lot of times I go to the families that I work with for early intervention, and even my families with the older kids, and the parents, read every single word in the story, and they'll say, I can't read every word, they don't understand it, and I don't know the signs for it, and all I want to say is it's not important to read every word, especially when they're little. You don't need to. You can get a book that has lots of words in it, but you don't need to talk about, read every word. You just talk about the pictures. You label what you see when they're little. Ooh, I see a cloud. Oh, I see a butterfly. Do you see the butterfly? And you use animated voices. You change your voice or your sign. Use very big sign. My husband is much, much better at signing the stories for the kids than I am. But so we do both of those things. But it's important to change your voice with the characters if you can, and ask questions. What do you think will happen? Why do you think this will happen? A lot of kids with hearing loss, at least the kids that I'm seeing, have a really hard time answering questions. They don't know what the question is asking, especially why questions. So I'm always asking, why do you think this is happening in the story?
Now.
Okay, so you labeled and talked about the pictures. You use animated voice and sign. My husband is much better at signing the stories than I am. And you ask questions. I don't know, most of my students, a lot of my students anyway, have a hard time answering question words. So I'm constantly asking, why do you think this happened? What do you think will happen? Especially why questions are hard for our kids. I don't know why, but they have a real hard time, so I'm always asking. And it's important for that higher level thinking to ask what they think will happen and predict what will happen. You can comment about the story, about anything you see in the story, like I said earlier. Point to words as your child gets older, even the basic early words like small words like to and the and just to point out that and move your finger along from left to right as you're reading to show them what you're saying does correlate. That's what those funny little lines and print is. They might not understand it at first, but eventually they'll start to understand it. And there's no specific time, you know. I mean, I love before bedtime and snuggling up with a book, but, you know, grab them during the day. And if they bring you a book, for sure sit down, stop what you're doing, and sit down and read with them. And there's no time. And maybe they don't have the attention to sit through a whole book, and that's okay. Just the more you read, and if you find stories that they're interested in, then that's something that they'll sit for. Just got to find the right kind of books, especially the ones you make yourself. I bet they'll sit with you through that one. Here are some of my favorite books. Peekaboo Kisses, that's this one with the cat. Pat the Bunny, Where is Baby? My first book of, I don't have a picture of that, but that's any of those books that my first book of, they're those big books that have lots of vocabulary in them. Counting Kisses is not here, but it's another book by Karen Katz with this cute baby. And Goodnight Moon, of course, is a classic. I can't tell you, I could probably tell you every single word in all of these books. I've read them so many times over and over and over and over, as I'm sure you guys do too. Some more of my favorites, Brown Bear, Brown Bear. This is a good pattern book. Go Dog Go, Are You My Mother? The Foot Book, another great pattern book. And Ka-Chicka Boom Boom is great for learning the ABCs. And it's fun, and you know, kids love when you change your voice to say boom, boom, and they can chime in, and it's fun. More classics, more of my favorites, Ferdinand the Bull, Corduroy, Good Dog Carl. I don't know if you guys know these books, but Good Dog Carl is a great book. It's actually just a picture book. There are no words, so you talk about what you see in the story. So whatever your story is story, and it's fun. You can change a little bit each time. You don't have to stick with the vocabulary and the words, the sentences. Todd Parr books, all of those books, I think I have them all. The Feelings books, My Family, My Mother, they're all great pictures, bright, fun pictures to look at. Where the Wild Things Are, we of course have to have, because my son's name is Max, my older son, and so, you know, he's definitely one of the wild things. And all of the pigeon books, that's what we're currently reading right now. That's my younger one with Eli. Don't let the pigeon drive the bus. The pigeon wants a hot dog. The pigeon, don't let the pigeon stay up late. We're reading them all. We have to read them all before bed over and over and over again, but that's how they learn, so it's okay. Take the time, right? And if you guys have any more favorites, I love children's books. It's an addiction. It's kind of a sick addiction, but I can't help it. I love them. And so if you have favorites, I'd love to hear what your favorites are. Please email me, and I will make a list. So let's see. I think that's it. I think we're ready for our post test. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, any concerns, and I'll be happy to get back to you, anything you can think of that I missed. So here's our post test. Number 1, true or false, almost all human beings acquire a language to the level of native competency before age 5. Number 2, why do children under the age of 3 communicate? A, she or he wants to get someone's attention. B, she or he wants to get something she or he wants. C, to protest. D, to show someone something. And E, all of the above. Number 3, How many words do children know receptively by the age of 7? And I should have said hearing children. A is 2,000, B is 5,000, C is 20,000, D is 200,000. And the point of all this is, it shouldn't matter if they're hearing or deaf. They should all be caught up. That's our hope and our goal. True or false, number 4. Exposure to storybooks is the biggest factor in a preschooler's vocabulary. And number 5, a pattern book is a book that teaches you how to sew, a math book. C, a book that uses the same phrase or sentence with one changing word on each page. And D, a book for artists. So that's it. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you go out and make some books for your kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Allie.